What up, y'all? It's OSGOE, One Sir Grove of EVT and England. It is 3 November 2019. That's 3, the number after 2, NOV2019. Yes, and it is 9 a.m. Actually, 9:10 a.m. Set our clocks back 1 hour. Word up. This is C4CW, casting 495 celebrities worldwide. So, yeah, man. What's going on, y'all? What it do? What it be about? Oh, my goodness. So, it's the fall season. Weather is fantastic. It says that it's 49 degrees Fahrenheit outside. So, that's a proper temperature right about now. It looks completely, totally autumn, and we are definitely well into the fall season, coming up on the winter, fourth quarter. I mean, man, it looks magnificent, man. It really does. The foliage, the turning of the leaves, it just, man, it looks magical, man. So I decided today that what I would do is go into the archives, and I loaded up my attaché case with, I invested about, over, I guess about 20 something years ago, man. I invested in a personal library of books and software. Spent a little mini fortune on text and materials before, as I often say, the advent of the high-speed internet. So I got rid of a lot of books, sold a lot of them, made some money here and there, donated a lot of them. But I do keep a sizable personal library. And so today, I thought, today's a good day for a review. So I went through my library, loaded up one of my multiple black bags, and I just went straight textbook. I grabbed my Army field manual for outdoor survival that I bought at one of the surplus stores so many years ago. Just thought I'd thumb through it, do some review of outdoor survival. I also have, in the contents of my black bag, I have one of my favorite books that I bought some years ago. It's a strategic atlas. You look it up on Amazon. It's a pretty neat book. It's a strategic atlas. And it's from, I believe, the year 1983. I looked at the copyright today. And I said, wow. Because by the way, if you are fans, listen, let's keep it simple. If you're fans, then IWE495 most certainly appreciate you. If you are not fans, those of you who listen and are not fans, I simply cannot make you a fan. I mean, you either are or you are not a fan. So that said, so the Strategic Atlas, I really like the Strategic Atlas because what it does is it puts into perspective what happened geopolitically from the 1980s forward, and then some hundreds of years before that. So in other words, in this concise, it's instead of a book ordinarily being the, say, kind of book that has the traditional book format where you open to the left, right, and it's a big book, not thick, but it's like typing paper size, like 8.5 by 11, like a relatively large sized book, just not thick. And you would open it. Well, this one is not too thick, and it's you still open it the same way, but it's horizontal, if that makes sense. Instead of being vertical, it goes sideways. It's like horizontal. And it's paperback. It's very informative, man. It's very, very insightful. And it shows the different continents and what was taking place on continents here on Earth prior to now. And it shows all these different kingdoms, all these different regions, all these different formations of these different nation states and their peoples, and the politics and geopolitics, migratory patterns, the different types of mineral content, the different types of supply chain, food, resources, and the different timelines of history in terms of growth and development of the planet. It's really interesting, where you can see the hegemony that was underway with regard to the USSR in relation to how America looked at the time, in relation to Western Europe, in relation to Eastern Europe, and then, Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, the Greeks and the Romans, and how the Greeks at some point, they were dispersed and became diffuse and spread out and pushed back. And then there are all these different groups that you don't hear about to this day, and all these different names of these countries that no longer exist. And so it really does look like a rhyme traveler's playbook. You know what I mean? It's like a rhyme traveler's textbook of time and history, because the world looked completely different back then. And you had all these different conflicts taking place that you don't hear about in basic history, basic world American history in high school. It's stuff you wouldn't really learn in high school or junior high school. You'd only really know about this stuff if you studied, geopolitics, I don't even think you would learn this information in sociology, political science, I suppose, in the 1980s. So this would be political science of the 1980s, global affairs, international relations, but not just that, geography. It's really heavy on the geography. That's what I like. It's really heavy. Really heavy on the. Say that 5 times in a row. Really heavy on the geography. 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 You guys are probably like, that was totally absurd. Just warming up. Warming up in this fall, autumn season. Fourth. Got to get those high notes. Fourth quarter. No, that was a fail. But we'll get those highs back up there. There it is. All right. So, but yeah, man, it really puts things into a different perspective. It connects a lot of dots in terms of what is now. Because people who are living in a vacuum, who were born, say, in the 1990s, and I'm not saying everyone is, but let's just be honest, space-time is a vacuum. You know what I mean? So it's we all live in a vacuum of space-time. It's the quantum vacuum. So when you look at that information, when you consider and take into account, thus, that information, it really does act as a prelude, clearly a prelude to what is now. Those living now who have no frame of reference for what was then, it's man, there are all these knowledge gaps in those folks, knowledge bases, because they just haven't seen it, man. You have to go back and you have to look at that information, and you have to see what led up to this, and how the continents and the nations and leadership and society and how everything is morphed over time. Because it really does look like morphology. It's just transformation, morphing of like space-time. So, Strategic Atlas, that's my reaction. Shout outs to reactions of books such as The Strategic Atlas. You guys were like, yeah, that was dumb. I'm like, yeah, but it was fun. So if you can get a copy of a Strategic Atlas on Amazon, I definitely encourage you to get one. I'll have to check out other years and see what other years they were published. So let's see. Army Field Manual, Strategic Atlas. Let's see. Oh, broke out with some Chinese studies, which is an ongoing study. Chinese it's been challenging for me, and I had to acquire. Oh man, Jesus! Like, I don't know, thousands of dollars worth of material, man, just to like get a basic understanding of like Chinese, because Chinese is it's twofold. It's so dense. It's so dense. There are scholars who know more than 1 million Chinese characters. The average Chinese citizen need only know 25 to 2,900 characters. I've talked about this before. That's actually the trick to learning Chinese. Because in communist China, a citizen, Chinese communist, would only need to know how to read a newspaper, which is going to be framed for average folk, right? Just simple information that the state wants for the communist citizen to know and understand. So you would only need to know 25 to 2,900 characters in order to read the state newspaper, to listen to the state-controlled radio. Yes, we're talking about state-controlled media. Chinese state, that is government-controlled radio, newspaper. And to have a conversation with a fellow communist. So that was it. You only needed to know, historically, 25 to 2,900. So we're talking less than 3,000 characters. Less than 3,000 characters. Now, if people want to study Chinese at a university level, a lot of times they're confronted, that is, exposed to and subjected to a plethora of tomes of text, because a lot of times it's going to be some thick textbook, learn Chinese, and it's going to be so dense and there's going to be so much information, and a person can become quickly overwhelmed, like, oh my God, how does a person learn all of this information, in the time allotted on this planet? This is like going to take forever just to read this one book in between my work schedule. And apparently I have to read like 10 of these books or 20 or 50 of them. Well, the reality is that a lot of times people are not told that they really only need to know a small, that is, subset of all that information. Why would people not be told that? Because publishers love to sell thick textbooks and have you not know of that information, what you need to know of that massive tome of text to be proficient in whatever field. Now, U.S. military, what I learned at American Military University, uses a method. This is a secret to learning rapidly. What you do is you take any textbook, regardless of how thick it is, and all you do is you read the first line of every paragraph, and that's it. You will have a well-rounded knowledge of that textbook, possibly even more so than having read the entire textbook. Because what goes into your long-term memory versus your short-term memory is known as rote memory. Instead of STM, short-term memory, you'd ideally want to have information going into your LTM, that's your long-term memory. If you read the main idea, which is the first line, which is the thesis statement of any paragraph, well, you've got the key idea, you've got the main idea. And then everything under that in that same paragraph is a secondary, tertiary, quaternary idea. So it becomes lesser and lesser important in terms of information, but it's really just that same main idea reiterated, rehashed over and over for emphasis. And you're like, okay, I read 10 lines of text. They all pretty much said the same thing. I could have just read the top line and I would have still understood the whole thing. And that's the idea. So if you want to read a textbook rapidly, you can just read the first line of every paragraph. Challenge to you, see how fast you can read a 1,000-page textbook reading only the first line of every paragraph. Bet you can do it in one day if you put your mind to it. So I learned that at American Military University. I actually knew that before I attended American Military University, but I was reminded of that. I was reminded of that at AMU, American Military University. I want to grow. So that's a pretty cool trick, pretty neat learning trick, hack, tool. Let's see, what else do I have in the black bag? One of my black bags. So we've got Chinese today. We have the Russian phrase book that we've been working with for the past year. German. We did a refresher on German. We got the German back up and running. Man, I invested my college professor in German, and keep in mind, I was in school like 50% of the time. I was ditching a lot of school, working a lot of jobs, partying it up quite a bit, like every night after like long double shifts at work. Not just going to work full time, going to work double and triple time, like meditating 15 hours a night, doing it all over again like Groundhog's Day for years, like in hyperspace status, just like loop, every day, same day. So she was like, you need to work on your German. Currently, it is butchered. And I was like, okay, I will. And she was like, I hope you succeed with regard to your German language proficiency at some point in the near future. And I was like, thank you, professor. So I invested in a bunch of books. Man, I was there like 5 days, like out of the entire semester. But I vowed to pick up where I left off. So I invested in a bunch of German textbooks. I probably have like over $1,000 worth of just German alone. So got the German back up and running, filled in some knowledge gaps today, spent a good hour on the German, going through, doing the grammar, doing the sentence structure, doing the elements of a sentence, identification of various elements, verbs, tenses, what have you. Tenses. I just kind of threw that in there. Some people are like, there are no tenses. But the point is, German is fun and it is interesting. And for those who have never studied German academically at the college university level, once you get beyond the simple stock phrases, it's actually, in my view, it's quite challenging. I mean, if you learn like, say, 20 different German stock phrases, that's pretty easy to get the basics down. But when it comes to academic German, like at the college university level, it becomes a whole different level of German, and you're just kind of like, I mean, I'm not trying to like project this, but for me, some people pick up on it. They're just like, oh, I get this. This is super simple. I don't know of anyone who's ever said that, but there's got to be someone out there who just picked up German in like a few days and is like proficient. But I like German because I am German, and I went to German language camp when I was a kid, so I figured, man, fucks it. Like, I might as well pick up where I left off like nearly a half a century ago. Feel me? So we've got the Chinese in the black bag today. We have the Russian in the black bag. We have the German in the black bag. I almost said Russian twice. Chinese, German, Russian. Korean is always here. So, but that's not in the black bag. That's right here on the side panel. So we've got the German, Russian, Chinese. We have the Army Field Manual for Outdoor Survival. Let's see. We've got the World Atlas. That's a separate book, which is the world, like the actual World Atlas. I have the software for that, and I have this game that I play by Atom Games. Love that game, man, because as things change in the world, it updates. Like when I first learned that South Sudan was a country, like some, months ago, I was like, really? Juba? Like, there's a new country called South Sudan? And what Adam Games does, man, with the geography game, is it updates when things change geopolitically. So as different leadership structure changes in terms of those players, when the players change, when the persons and the people and the humans, when they shuffle around, and the different lines of demarcation, lines of delineation, when the lines change and countries and names and titles, when they change, they update in this database automatically. So you can see the world as it morphs playing this game. So I have the strategic atlas in the black bag and the world atlas. And then I have software that coincides with that. All right, what else is in the black bag? What else is in the black bag? What else did I put in the black bag? We reviewed some Linux, KDE, desktop, GNOME, going through memory. Let's see, Apache, Red Hat, Linux. What's in the black bag today? What the fuck else did I put in the black bag? We've got language. We have yes. Picking up where I left off on college university chemistry. Got this cool little I have this cool little, well, it's not just it's science, but it's heavy on chemistry, chemical equations. That, and I have 2 books on physics. 2 books on physics. One is AP for high school students. The other's for university. Yeah, man. Just touching up, man, because you gotta have, you have to have it imprinted indelibly. You know what I mean? So, like, if you're ever on a game show and you're quizzed, you gotta know that stuff, man. Never know. I mean, I like to play online trivia. I like to play trivia games. Helps with memory, and basic, intermediate to difficult. Because, man, I skipped a lot of school. And when I wanted to get straight A's, I did. Just working on some organic, inorganic chemistry, biochemistry, and physics, and just keeping it science related. And then the final book that I have in the black bag is a science encyclopedia. It's one of those modern science encyclopedias that has little windows and modules of everything science from A to Z. I mean, listen, keep in mind, I have software like Kindle, and I have PDFs that have over hundreds of books. Like, I just boop, just press the button, brings up the book, and there are thousands of pages of information. I have that as well. But I also like the old school books, man, kind of like the movie Oblivion, the library. Spoiler alert. I just like to have some books on deck, man. To keep the information fresh in mind. That's what I'm saying, man. We black bagging today. I'm one Sir Grove. Thanks for tuning in to yet another episode of C4CW. Get y'all STEM on. Please get y'all STEM on. That's what we about over here, man. Increasing awareness, spreading the word, you know what I'm saying? Spreading the good gospel. We're living in a time where we're approaching that singularity. Even if you got some STEM background, we encourage y'all to keep it STEMing. 1,